Well, hello everyone. Welcome to a special webinar presentation. This webinar is called Is the Doman Method Right for My Family? And this is really a webinar primarily for parents who might have heard about the Doman Method, are interested in it for their child with special needs, but isn't sure if it's the right choice for them. And so I'm going to try to address most of the major questions that parents with children with special needs have about the Doman Method, and hopefully in that way it'll be a helpful and instructional webinar for everyone. I'm joined here by Colleen Hudson, who is the Director of Representatives at Doman International. She's the first person that parents speak to at Doman International from around the world. Thanks for being here, Colleen.
My pleasure.
And so whether you're joining us here in the live webinar or you're watching right now on one of our social media platforms, welcome. So I'm going to pull up my presentation and we can get started. So as I said, this is called Is the Doman Method Right for My Family? My name is Spencer Doman. I'm the director of Doman International. When I'm not doing these kinds of presentations, you'll find me usually at our Doman International Clinic here in Philadelphia, which is where our headquarters are, or at our location in Europe, in Pisa, Italy, or in one of 8 other locations around the world where we see families of children with special needs. So let me start by addressing the 6 questions I'm going to answer in this webinar. These are the 6 most common questions we get from parents. So the first question is, which children and diagnoses can be helped by Doman International? The second is, what kinds of activities are actually included in Doman Method treatment for children with special needs? The third question is, what are the results of the treatment? How are children benefited from this program? Fourth, what makes Doman International unique? What makes Doman International different from the hundreds or thousands of other choices out there for parents when it comes to treatment? And then fifth, I'll get to the question, is the Doman Method right for your family? That's, I think, the question that everyone really comes here for, but I think we have to answer some other ones first. And then last but not least, what is our recommended path for your family? So I'll try to go through these questions and answer them in a helpful and succinct way. So let's start with the first question that parents will often ask us when they come through our doors, and that is, well, what children and diagnoses can be helped by the Doman Method? And at Doman International, we have helped children with hundreds of different diagnoses given to children with developmental delays and neurological conditions. And so I couldn't list for you all of the different diagnoses that we help, because as I mentioned, it's hundreds. But these are the most common diagnoses that we see in our population of children. So we have autism, cerebral palsy, ADD and ADHD, learning difficulties and dyslexia, epilepsy, so children who have seizures. Developmental delay is one of the most common diagnoses we see. Brain injury or traumatic brain injury, cortical blindness and visual impairment, speech delay, trisomy 21, also known as Down syndrome, and many other genetic diagnoses. And as I mentioned, hundreds more. Now, these are not the only diagnoses that we help. These are just the most common ones. But the important thing to know is that while all of these conditions might appear very different in the symptoms that the children face, the root cause problem for all of them is the same, which is the root cause problem is in their brain development. Their brains are not functioning correctly, and that leads to very problematic symptoms. For some children, their speech is not developed. For other children, they cannot walk. Other children might have severe sensory problems. They don't see well, hear well, feel well. Some children will engage in abnormal behaviors, repetitive behaviors, stimming, hyperactivity. Other children, as I mentioned, have seizures, which really disrupt their lives. And often those children are prescribed very powerful medications. So while all of these children might appear very different to the eye, the root cause problem for all of them is the same, which is the brain. And fortunately, the brain is an organ that can grow and develop when it is stimulated. This is a process called neuroplasticity, which is, a pretty well-known word at this point. But neuroplasticity very simply means the brain's ability to change when it's given the right kinds of stimulation and the right activities. And so that's what the Doman method has been about now for 70 years, trying to find the very best treatments that stimulate neuroplasticity. And then we teach the families those activities that they can do at home. And that's how we're able to help all of these children. Maybe that's helping children with autism learn to speak, or children with cerebral palsy learn how to walk, or children with ADD and ADHD settle down and focus, or children with learning difficulties to read and write for the first time in their lives, or for children with epilepsy, helping to reduce or sometimes even completely prevent their seizures. We do that through a program of neuroplasticity. And that's the most important element of the Doman method. Now, once parents understand the concept of neuroplasticity and the brain's ability to change, usually they ask, well, what kinds of treatments are included? Like, what are the kinds of treatments that stimulate this neuroplasticity that you talk about? And this is what really makes the Doman method different, because we have a holistic program that addresses brain development from different different backgrounds. So you can see in this image, it says Doman method in the middle, and there are actually 6 different components of the Doman method. And it's when we use all 6 of these components together that we can achieve really amazing results with children with special needs. So let me start at the top, and I'll kind of work clockwise around this image. Each of these 6 components is essential for kids to have major developmental wins. So the first is nutrition and supplementation. Diet and supplements play a big role in the Doman method. And this is because the gut plays a huge role in brain development. Most parents, even when they've arrived to Doman International, have heard about the gut-brain connection. They know that the gut and the brain are connected. But what many people don't realize is there are actually 500 million neurons, 500 million brain cells in our gut that are constantly communicating with our brain, and the brain is communicating with the gut. And so gut function is interconnected with brain activity and function. And so the first tool we use in our toolkit is looking at what a child is eating, making sure they're on the best diet, making sure they're getting the right supplements to foster good gut health and brain development. The second component is sensory development. Many children with special needs have sensory problems. They may not see well, hear well, feel well. And so what we do is we do stimulation of their vision, their hearing, and their tactility to improve these sensory pathways. The sensory pathways are the only way that a child can learn from the world around them. Think about it. Everything you've ever learned in your life, everything I've ever learned in mine, everything your child will ever learn in their lives, they learn through their sensory pathways by seeing, hearing, and feeling. And so if those pathways don't work properly, that is a barrier to learning. It's a barrier to social interaction. It's a barrier to growth. And so what we do is we stimulate those sensory pathways. We improve that child's ability to see, hear, and feel. and all of a sudden their learning ability starts to improve and they become much more interactive. And so that's why sensory stimulation, crucial part of our program. The third part of the Doman method is mobility development. You can see there in that third component, movement is essential for brain development. Now, many parents, when they arrive at Doman International, have children who have severe motor development issues. They may not walk. Sometimes they may not even crawl or creep. And those children obviously need help with motor development. But even for children who walk and run, those children, let's say they have learning difficulties, hyperactivity, focus issues, reading problems, those children also need specific motor exercises to help develop their cognition. Motor development, certain kinds of motor development, can help cognitive development. And so we include that in our program. The fourth component is cognition and speech. Probably the most famous element of the Doman method are our cognitive programs, our reading program, our math program, which have been used by millions of families around the world to teach their children, both with special needs and well children, how to read and do math well before their school age. And of course, along with cognitive development, speech development is essential. How can we get a child who may be nonverbal to talk for the first time? So we have specific activities and treatments to stimulate speech. A component of the Doman method, which is completely unique, is oxygenation. So oxygen is the food of the brain. If you think about it, a human can live for weeks without food or water, but without oxygen, we can only survive maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And that's because the brain is completely reliant on oxygen for energy and to survive. So we have specific programs that increase oxygen delivery to the brain. And interestingly, when we do that, we can often reduce things like rigidity and spasticity in muscles. We can improve focus and concentration. We can improve speech development. And for children with seizures, we can often reduce the seizures and sometimes entirely prevent them. Last but not least, we have social development. Social development I mentioned last because it really is in many ways dependent on improvement in the other areas, right? If a child has sensory problems, speech problems, mobility problems, well, that's going to impact their ability to interact with others. But if we can improve all those areas, get the child talking, get them learning well, get them moving well, now they're ready to really learn how to socially engage with others, become more independent and mature. And of course, that is what we're trying to achieve with this program. We're trying to achieve independence for a child or adult. Because that is the goal, right? Our goal is we're aiming for wellness to get a child to the point where they can succeed in school and in life. Well, many parents ask us, what are the results of the Doman International Treatment Program? And what is really remarkable, before I get into our results, is how little results are ever spoken about in the world of children with special needs. If you contact your local therapy center and you go to your local physical therapist and you say, hey, what percentage of children that you see learn to walk? They'll probably look at you like you have two heads. If you go to your speech therapist and you say, what percentage of kids that come to see you learn how to speak? Their jaw will drop at the question. And that's not because they're bad people, but even the idea of measuring results for many professionals is non-existent. And unfortunately, there's a sad reason for that. It's that results in these fields tend to not be impressive. And who wants to track results if they're not pretty? And that's just the sad nature of reality. So when my grandfather, Glenn Doman, started this work 70 years ago, he said, we are going to track results. Not only to show the efficacy of the Doman method, that's important, but also to keep ourselves accountable. If we have to tell everyone our results, we are constantly accountable for improving those results. and that accountability exists almost nowhere in the world of children with special needs, which is just a sad, sad truth. Now, let's look at some of these statistics. These are the results of hundreds of children who have been on the Doman International treatment for at least 6 months. So I do make that caveat. These are children that followed our treatment for at least 6 months. And I will highlight a few important statistics here. I won't discuss them all because of time, but you're absolutely welcome, if you're watching this webinar right now, to photograph the screen and look at it later, share it with others. We share it, it's on our website, so anyone in the world can look at these statistics. They're not secret. So let's start with seeing. So this is really a result which is important for children with cortical visual impairment, cortical blindness. They don't see well because of brain injury. 89% of children who were functionally blind when they began our program, almost 9 in 10 children, began to see. And when I say began to see, I don't mean they saw one thing. I mean they started to recognize their parents' faces. They were able to differentiate pictures. These are some of the tests they have to pass for us to count them in these statistics. Keep in mind, these are not children that were functionally blind because of problems in their eye structure. These were children who were blind because they were brain injured. And so through neuroplasticity and a lot of visual stimulation, we are able to get them seeing. All right, the next statistic over is reading. 97% of children who are unable to read learn to read with the program. Now, for many people, this is the most stunning statistic. And for some people, absolutely unbelievable. It's such a high number, I even am reluctant to show the statistic. But for a child to be included in this statistic, I want to say, just so you understand our criteria, the child must perform in front of both the staff and the parents. They must demonstrate the ability to read words, right? Meaning if you put different words in front of them, like banana and apple and grape, and you say, hey, where's banana? And the child shows where that word is. So they demonstrate the ability to read many words to the staff and to their parents. And by the way, we only include them in the statistic if parents agree. And so that makes this even more remarkable. Okay, let's go to all the way over to the right. You can see the walking statistic. So 54% of children who are unable to walk when they started the Doman Method treatment began to walk on the program. And I want to say here, when we say began to walk, I don't mean they took their first steps. To be included in this statistic, a child must walk for transportation. They must walk around their house. They must be able to walk around in different environments with good balance. It's their main way of getting around. Again, like I said before, if you go to your local physical therapist and you say, what percentage of kids learn to walk here? They will have never even considered that question before. 87%, let's go down to comprehension now, the bottom left-hand corner. Comprehension, 87% of children who could not follow and understand sentences began to comprehend with the Doman Method. So these are children who couldn't follow basic instructions. If you said, give me the ball, they didn't understand what you were asking. For children to be included in this statistic, they have to follow 2-step instructions. So you basically say, okay, grab the ball and hand it to your brother. 2 steps. And they're able to do that. And then we have, let's talk about writing for a second before we move on. Writing, 48% of children who were unable to write learned to write with the program. Writing is one of the most challenging things to achieve. As you can imagine, you need really good fine motor skills. You need really good reading ability, vision. So many things are required to write. That's why it's one of the most challenging statistics for us to achieve. But still, that's a result that is, I believe, unheard of in the world of treating children with special needs. So these are statistics that we keep. We continue updating them every year as we see more and more children, and we continue to work on improving them. What makes Doman International unique? What makes us different from the thousands of other options out there? You know, when my grandfather, Glenn Doman, started this work in the 1950s, it was a different world. At that time, there were no answers for parents of children with special needs. Parents were told, just put your child in an institution. Some parents are sadly still told that, but back then that was basically the only advice. And so when Glenn Doman came on the scene and said, wait, hold on, the brain can actually change, and better yet, parents can actually do activities at home that changes the way the brain functions, and we can help these children improve in their daily lives. When he said that, it was the only thing possible, right? It was the only available answer to parents. Now we live in a very different world where there is a constant overflow of information flowing into our homes through the internet. And of course, the internet is amazing in many ways, and it gives parents many options. Many of you would never have found us if it weren't thanks to the internet. But the problem is there are many distractions, and that causes a lot of confusion for parents. So what makes Doman International unique, different from all the other things out there? Well, the first thing is, for over 60 years, and I should say 70 years now, because really my grandfather started this work in 1955. So for about 70 years, the Doman Method has helped thousands of special needs children learn to walk, learn to talk, and succeed in school and life. So we're talking about over 40,000 children, over 70 years, showing real life changes. And of course, not only does that mean amazing changes for the child and for the parents, but for our team, we learn with every child we work with. We learn some new lesson that we can apply with another child. And that's why the Doman Method, by the way, has over 400 different treatments, because over time, we continue to add new treatments as we learn more things. The second thing that makes Doman International unique is no matter what anyone tells you, we know that your special needs child has a great potential and an innate intelligence, and we help you discover that. Let me talk about innate intelligence. Many children with special needs are unable to talk or talk well, and so they can't express themselves. But many of them are highly intelligent. They often understand at age level or above. They just cannot express it. And very often when I talk to parents about this, they get it. They say, yeah, I've always known he's smart. Even though he can't talk much, I can see in his eyes, he's really smart. And they're right. And so what we do is we teach parents ways to stimulate that innate intelligence, but also we have specific tools that allow the child to communicate and demonstrate that intelligence, which is so important for those children. It completely transforms their lives when the family realizes how smart the child is. Because of course, if the whole family knows the kid is intelligent and smart, they interact and stimulate that child in a different way. So that's the second thing about our program. We know your child has a great potential and an innate intelligence because we've seen it with the 40,000 children that came before your child. And we have a lot to teach you about that. Last but not least, our team will work hand in hand with you to provide solutions for your child. And what might seem impossible to others is possible with us, and we'll support you every step of the way. When I say what seems impossible to others, I mean that literally. Almost every child that comes to the Doman International Clinic, the parents have been told, your child will never blank, never walk, maybe never talk, never read, never succeed in school, never live independently. It's almost every child a parent has been told they'll likely never do this. And so when I say what seems impossible to others is possible with the Doman Method, I mean that literally, because many of our children have proven those exact predictions absolutely wrong. And by the way, a lot of the time those predictions are delivered by the expert in that person's city or country. The parent will say, I went to the expert in our capital city and they told us our child would never do this. And now our child is doing this. That's the whole point of our program. Prove prove those predictions wrong, and accomplish the impossible. So let's get to the last question well, actually, it's the second to last question. But as we're nearing the end of the presentation, go ahead and start typing your questions into the comments. We should have about 15 minutes for questions. And so I'll take them in order as they come in. Hopefully I can get to all of them. So, is the Doman method right for my family? The question you all came here for. Well, can you answer yes to these three questions? If you answer yes to these three questions, I believe that it's right for your family, even if I've never met your family before. So the first question is, are you looking for a holistic, drug-free approach to address all of your child's developmental problems? Are you looking for a treatment which is holistic, drug-free, to help all of your child's developmental issues? Most families will give me a quick yes to this because they're looking for something. That's why they're attending this webinar. So I'll move on to the next question. The next question is, are you open to giving the time and effort to learn about the Doman method from our team of coaches? Because what we're going to do is our coaches are going to teach you how to do the different treatments at home. And why would we do that? Well, no one is with a child more than their parents. No one loves a child, is more dedicated to a child than their parents. And so we found we get the best results with children when we teach their parents what to do and the parents can do it consistently at home. That's far more effective than telling a family, come to us for a week intensive and let us do the treatment with your child. Much, much more effective for us to teach the family, and they can do it 52 weeks a year and get much better results than we could get in 1 or 2 weeks. And I would mention also for a much more affordable amount for parents. So that's why we coach parents. No one has more time for children. No one has more love and dedication for kids. And so the question is, are you as parents, are you open to giving the time and effort to learn from the Doman method as we teach it to you? And last but not least, are you willing and able to give at least 1 hour of your time a day? But ideally up to 3 hours, right? But we say at least an hour to do our recommended treatments for your child. Now, a couple of quick comments on that last question. Doesn't have to necessarily just be you. It could be other members of your family who are helping and supporting you do the program. So very often our families come and they have like a support team around them who helps them with the program. And that's so important. That's great that you don't have to necessarily do it all alone. Although we do sometimes have parents who do it all alone, but it's good to have support. And also, it's important for me to say, when I say 1 hour of time or 3 hours of time, I don't mean it has to be at one stretch. It could be divided during the day at different times, a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon, and it adds up to that amount of time. It doesn't have to all be done in one block. But that's the amount of time we're looking for to make sure that you've got time to implement the recommendations that we have for you. Now, I want to kind of address the opposite side of this coin. When is the Doman method maybe not right for a family with a child with special needs? We always say here, we believe the Doman method is right for every child, but it may not be right for every family. And so parents really need to make the decision, is this the right path for them? So the first thing that might indicate the Doman method is not right for a family is if they're really looking for a magic pill to fix all problems overnight. And sometimes there's a family that will come to us and it just becomes clear in our conversations. They're looking for something which is like, a cure, overnight cure. And listen, this is a program which is time tested with thousands of children, but it does take time and consistency. And by the way, anyone who's promising you a magic pill, the magic pill doesn't exist, because believe me, if the magic pill existed, we would know about it. We've been doing this for 70 years. I haven't been doing it for 70 years, but our team has been doing it for 70 years. If there was a magic pill, we'd be giving it to you, okay? I hope one day it exists, but it doesn't exist yet. And so the Doman method with time and consistency is the right path forward to get results. The second thing is when parents aren't able to give time or organize helpers, right, to do the Doman method with the child. And so sometimes they'll just be a family and they'll say, look, we know you're asking for at least an hour, but we just can't do that. We don't have, no member of the family can give an hour, or we can't organize different members of the family to help out. And so if that's the case, very often parents will tell us, you know what, we can make some certain organizational changes and make it work. And if you can do that, we highly recommend it. But occasionally there is a family that says, none of us have the time. And then the third thing is when parents want to outsource all treatment to professionals. I'll usually have one father a year who will get on a call with me and they'll say something like, Spencer, I'm a high-powered CEO, I'm a politician. Listen, I just don't have the time for this stuff. Like, me and my family don't have time to attend appointments and be taught what to do. Let me just write a check and one of you come and do the program with my child. And we just say we don't work that way. We partner with families. No one knows a child better than the parents. So even for us as professionals, we might be experts in treatment, but we still need the experts in the child, who are the parents, to work with us, to tell us what we need to know about that child. And so if a family says, listen, we just don't want to be involved, it's not the right way to do it. It's not what's going to get the best results. The best results is our team of coaches working with parents together as partners. So last part of this presentation, and then I'll go to questions. What is our recommended path for your family? Well, I have a quick video to show you, but I'll just start out by talking a little bit. So Doman International offers appointments in different locations around the world, at clinics, and also remotely online. And our headquarters, as I mentioned, are here in Philadelphia in the United States, but we have locations in Pisa, Italy, which are our Italian location, or our European headquarters. We have families from all over Europe and the Middle East come to see us there. We see families in the Balkans, in countries like Croatia and Serbia. We see families in different parts of the United States, like Miami and California. We see families in Oceania, in Australia and New Zealand. I hope I've mentioned all of the locations. If I forgot, India. India and Russia. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Colleen. So those are the locations where we see parents in person. And many families travel to those locations to see our team. But as I said, for some families who cannot travel, we have the option of remote appointments. Now, at an appointment, we begin by evaluating a child. We see where they are in their development. And we use a tool called the developmental profile. I'm biased. In my experience, it is the best tool for measuring child development in the world. When I did my master's degree in early childhood education, one of the things I was most excited about was to look at other child development checklists and tools and compare them to our developmental profile that was first created by my grandfather over 60 years ago and has been adapted over time and perfected. And I was stunned at the difference between the developmental profile and the other developmental checklists out there. I thought there might be helpful, relevant things to find in the other checklists. I was horrified at how unhelpful they were and how they often did not correlate to brain development. And that really surprised me. And so the developmental profile is the first step in the appointment at Doman International, because we want to know where your child is in their development. That is so important for us to construct the best treatment plan for your child. After doing that evaluation by a Doman Method coach, our team meets and creates a program for your child. So we design what is the best program for this child? What's the best mobility development program? What's the best cognitive development program? How can we help this child see better, hear better, feel better, speak, read, whatever it is that the child needs? Nutrition. So we give the nutritionist at Doman International gives the family a diet and a supplement plan. Oxygenation. We teach the families the Doman Method oxygenation program to improve oxygen delivery to the brain. And so, like I showed you earlier in the presentation, we incorporate those 6 components in that child's life. And we teach the families, this is how you're going to incorporate the programs from these 6 components to help your child get better. And that's how we get the results. So we teach the family at the appointment, we give them a program plan. And when I say a program plan, I mean, we give them a checklist that tells them exactly what to do when they get home. We teach them how to do each activity, and the family returns home and starts doing it. And that's the amazing thing. Those results that I showed you, those weren't achieved by us. Those were achieved by parents at home. We simply taught them what to do. By the way, when you come for an appointment, it's not just the experience of coming and learning the best treatment for your child. You also get, after that appointment, 6 months of support from our team. If you have questions, issues, challenges that you face in the 6 months after the appointment, we coach you through that. And also, every family on the program is designated a staff coach, one member of our team who is responsible to oversee that child's progress. We do that because that way the family knows they've got a staff liaison, a person who is fully responsible for them, answers their questions in a timely way, helps that family connect with other members of the team if needed, which is often very necessary. We've got a whole team here to help support you and your family. I've got a quick video here to show you about the appointment experience. Let's give it a quick watch.
For families who have attended the Doman Method course, having an initial visit with Doman International is an opportunity to learn from the world's leading experts in child development for children with special needs. When a family arrives on the first day, the child is evaluated by a Doman Method coach. This evaluation helps Doman International staff assess the child's current abilities and get to know the child. This evaluation, along with a medical examination and a developmental and program review, allows the staff to best help parents and child. The team at Doman International then meets to discuss the child's case and to design the very best program for the child. This meeting includes Doman International's directors and members of the cognitive, physical, nutrition, and respiratory development teams. Now that the child's Doman Method program is designed, the family meets with one member of each department to learn the best program for the child. This includes a cognitive program focused on improving comprehension, speech, and sensory abilities, a physical program to improve mobility and manual ability, a respiratory program to improve respiration and brain function, as well as a nutrition program to design the very best nutritional plan for that child. Each family is given the time they need to learn their new program in full, meeting the experts in each field. The visit ends with a meeting with a Doman International director, who answers any final questions the family has. The family now has a fully designed treatment program for the next 6 months. Best of all, the family is given a Doman International staff coach who is there to answer any questions they have when they are at home. This guidance, coaching, and support can make all the difference. Contact Doman International to inquire about our evaluations worldwide.
Okay, so that was the quick video about what it's like to come for an appointment. And to finish off with a final slide, the end goal of the Doman Method and coming to Doman International, the end goal of coming for appointments is what we call graduation to life. And I show this photo because you can see here a boy, his name is George. And George is 7 years old in this photo. And this photo was taken on his day of graduation from the program. And you can see here he's shaking hands with Douglas Doman, my dad, the founder of Doman International, he's congratulating him on his graduation. And standing behind him are mom and dad and his younger sister, Maria. And when George began the program, he had a series of different challenges. He wasn't able to read, he couldn't do math, he couldn't write. So he had academic issues. He had auditory hypersensitivity issues. Sounds bothered him. And also social challenges. Often if you kind of walked into a party, he might be the child who was separated from the other kids. And so his parents did our program with him for a year. And when he graduated from the program, he read, did math, spoke fluently in 2 languages, English and Portuguese, but his academic abilities were above age level. His auditory hypersensitivity to different sounds was gone. And socially, you can see here he's really transformed from a child who was separated to now being a child who's incredibly connected. Notice he's shaking Douglas's hand and locking eyes with him. That's a confident kid, very different from the child that we saw before. And so he graduated from the program. And the last time I spoke to parents about George, he's top of the class, excellent, one of the top students. And when I speak to George, I'm always impressed at how smart he is. And when I say graduation to life, I mean, if I brought you into a classroom and I said, which of these children had a special need in the past, you wouldn't be able to tell me which was the child who used to be on our program. Now, the thing I like about this photo is you can see behind George is his sister, Maria. Now, Maria happens to have Down syndrome. And so this family did the Doman method with both of their children. And Maria now, with the help of the program and with the consistent work of her parents, she now reads, she writes, and she does math. She reads and writes and speaks in 2 languages. And as any of you know who have ever met someone with Down syndrome, speech tends to be one of their biggest challenges. And she speaks fluently. She can tell entire stories. She can, make presentations in English and in Portuguese, and is incredibly socially confident and mature. So I love to show this photo because it shows a family with 2 children. Maria's on her way to graduation. We hope to graduate her this year from the program. And they wouldn't be the first family to graduate 2 children from the Doman method, but it's obviously a very, very special occasion when a family does this. And when I talk about graduation, I mean, we have children who graduate with every diagnosis: autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, epilepsy, developmental delay. We've had children graduate with all of these diagnoses. Just to give you an example, we had one late last year. We had a now teenager diagnosed with autism graduate from our program. When she started our program, she had 2 words of speech. And now she speaks fluently. She reads, writes, does math. And she's an incredibly talented artist. She started to sell her artwork, even though she's just a teenager, and make some money. And also has been interviewed on television because she's gained some attention as a very talented artist. So here's someone who used to have immense social problems, could not speak, and is now on TV talking about her experience as a painter. So that's the end goal of coming on to the Doman International program. We are trying to achieve graduation. We set our sights high. We don't always achieve our goals, right? With every child, of course. But we believe in setting our sights and goals high, because then we know we will do everything we can to help a child reach their greatest potential in life. Okay. Well, that was my presentation. And I see that we have some questions that have come up. And
could I make one comment?
Yeah, of course, Colleen. Sorry, I should have asked you if you had anything you wanted to add.
Well, I only wanted to point out, when you were talking about the walking success rates, because I recently was talking to some parents who said, well, my child has started to walk now. And I said, oh, that's great. Well, yeah, with the device. or with the brace or with the this. And I
or
think
holding hands.
right. And I think it's really important for parents whose children are not yet walking or who are starting to walk with these devices to know that from a Doman perspective, we do not count that. We don't use device. Our goal is full independence, that your child doesn't have to depend on your finger or a brace or a walker or any of those things. A walking victory means they walk. So that was just something I wanted to mention.
Yeah, no, thanks so much, Colleen. That's a great point. So we have one person here who asked on Instagram, can you please save this video? So listen, this presentation will be saved on the different social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And anyone who signed up for the webinar would get access to it. And Colleen, could you, in case anyone, I don't know, wants the recording sent, could you just give your contact information and they could reach out?
Absolutely, yes. So if you would like this recording sent to you, if you're on Instagram or Facebook, the easiest way for you is just to send a direct message right now with your email address. I am the person who sees those comments and those direct messages, so you know they're going to a real human being. But if you share your name and your email address, just tell me that you would like the recording emailed to you, and I will make sure that it gets done. But you can also always email me. My email address is info, INFO, @domaninternational.org. And that is my direct email. I'm the only person who looks at those messages too. So please, reach out to us directly and we'll get you everything that you need. Oh, you're still muted, Spencer.
Thanks, Colleen. So let's jump into some other questions. So we have a question here from Lena, who's asking, what exactly are these treatments? Is it a massage or what is it? Is this a lifetime process? So Lena, as I mentioned, we actually have over 400 different treatments that we use with children. And so what we recommend to families completely depends on where that child is in their development. So if you can imagine, and I'll give you an example from our clinic this week. In our clinic this week, we have a child diagnosed with autism who, runs, with the program, he's learned to run. He now reads. He now speaks. He speaks 1,000 words, even though when he started the program, I think he spoke 10, something like that. So we have children who might be at that level in their development. And at the same time, in our clinic this week, we have a child who has cortical blindness, a child who's unable to see because of a severe brain injury that they've sustained. That child is immobile. So the kinds of programs that we will prescribe to families completely depend on what issues the child has. And that's important to know because this is not a kind of one size fits all program. It's not like, hey, here's your list of 5 things to do. Everyone go and do it. It completely depends on what the child's issues are. And as I said, over 70 years, we've learned a lot of things. And so we learn to spot what child would be benefited by what treatment. But this is probably a good time, Lena, for me to mention our books, because the books go into more depth on different programs. So for most parents, we recommend to read this book, The Doman Method, From Special Needs to Wellness. I wrote it with my father, Douglas. You can find it on Amazon. And this book is very practical, by the way. It's more practical than my presentation today in the sense it actually goes through. It says, okay, if your child has this issue, here's a program you could start with your child. This is how often to do it. So it kind of walks you through. So for example, there's a chapter on speech development, mobility development, reading, sensory problems. So I highly recommend this book. For families who might have an autism diagnosis, I recommend this book, Answering Autism, The Doman Method, Plan for Autism, ADD, and Neurodevelopmental Delays. Again, you can find it on Amazon if you just type in Answering Autism. So, Lena, I'd probably start by looking at the books. I also have to say that this is not maybe just a fun way that you could keep learning about what kind of programs we do. If you go on to our Instagram or our Facebook page, we do post videos of families doing our program. And sometimes that is helpful to see what a program might look like in action. It doesn't mean your child's Doman Method program would look like theirs, because again, it's dependent on your child's needs, but it might give you an idea. Colleen, anything you want to add to that?
I think so. Lena and I spoke yesterday, so I'm so glad to see her here. Thank you. I think exactly as you said, Spencer, the book goes into a lot more depth than we can in this presentation. The treatments are all different kinds of things. Sometimes parents will say to me, "Oh, the physical program we were given, a couple of the exercises are somewhat reminiscent of something that we might have done in physical therapy, but we know that this treatment is exactly what our child needs right now because we've had that evaluation." So it's more about knowing that every part of their program is targeted to their child's specific developmental stage and needs, as opposed to let's just throw some things at the wall and see what sticks,
Colleen, so everyone, again, type your questions into the comments box. It doesn't matter if you're watching this on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, we'll see your comments. So go ahead and type your questions in. Colleen, anything else you want to say about coming for an appointment at Doman International that I didn't mention?
Well, I do want to say, if parents are considering it, if you have questions about it, get in touch with me as soon as possible, because we are this year has really taken off in a big way from the start of the year. Something's different about 2025 in a great way, that so many parents are reserving spaces for appointments. So I want to make sure that people get the appointments they want. If you're thinking about it or not sure, just get in touch with me as soon as you can so we can start having the conversation, so that you can get the appointment date that will work best for your family. And we are in all different places. So you might find, actually, I spoke with a mom recently who said, "Oh, we're going to be in California in June." And that would really, I think that's going to work out really well. So it's like, great, what are the odds? But, having that discussion is really helpful.
Great. Thanks so much. We have a question here, Colleen, about Seva's asking, how much is the online program? You want to take that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do offer our online appointments. Our online appointments are a comprehensive evaluation, a full program designed for your child. Those sessions are scheduled over 7 to 10 days, because unlike when you're in person and you come to see us for 3 days, we don't want you sitting in front of a computer for hours, and our staff are not sitting in front of a computer for hours. So we stretch that out a little more. And then, of course, the 6 months of constant support from our staff. The fee for that online program currently is $4,950. Our fees are going to go up a little bit in mid-March, so that's another reason to get in touch with me sooner rather than later, just because we can get you scheduled sooner, and you can put your deposit down, and then you won't be affected by the slight increase. That's our online capability right now.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add, that online appointment, the cost doesn't just cover the appointment, it's for the 6 months of support afterwards, which often is just as important as the appointment itself. Yeah. Having the team there to coach you along the way, and then also not only to address questions and issues, but as the child develops, very often the child becomes ready for new things. And that's actually one of the most fun things, is when a child outgrows one of the treatments. I actually wanted to make this comment, I think, when Lena asked her question, because Lena asked, is this a lifetime process? every Doman Method program which is created is meant to be self-eliminating. When I say self-eliminating, I mean the whole point of it, of every treatment we do, is to do it to get to the child to the point where they no longer need it anymore. That's very different from creating dependency, which is what is often done in the world of children with special needs, right? They'll often say, okay, this child cannot move well. Here's a wheelchair, right? And that wheelchair, sadly, is often meant to be a lifetime dependency, right? Or they'll say, okay, this child cannot feed themselves. Maybe here's a special tool that can be used to feed them. But what we want to do is for a child to feed themselves. We want them to be able to walk on their own. And so we give programs that are self-eliminating. And so the whole point of the program is meant to not be a lifetime process.
Yes. Yeah. I had that conversation with a parent very recently, and she said that she actually had just been for her appointment. And she said that the biggest difference for her was not just that our staff were so much more positive and hopeful than any other team she'd ever had experience with, but also that we had the real concrete steps to back it up. That we're not, she said, you're not pie in the sky people, like, oh, won't it all be amazing? And we just kind of imagine that. She said, you imagine it because you've been doing it and you know that it can happen. I said, yeah, that's exactly right. It's cool, exactly. Which is really cool. Yeah.
A great question here from Amber on Instagram. I don't know if I've ever gotten this question before, but I've sometimes thought that maybe it might be a concern of parents out there. So does the child have to be completely free from medication for the Doman Method? Absolutely not. In fact, we have children who come to us who are on often 3, 4, 5 different medications. I saw a child recently, I think 18 months old, who was on 5 different anticonvulsant medications. And unfortunately, those medications were not solving the seizure problem and were creating a lot of side effects in the process. But we also have children who come to us on other medications. We have children who sometimes are on certain stimulants like Ritalin, things for behavior, or antipsychotic medications, or sometimes muscle relaxants for children who are very rigid and spastic. And so absolutely, children join the program all the time with medication. And so when I say it's a drug-free approach, I don't mean we recklessly remove medications from a child. That would be, the first rule of medicine is do no harm. And we keep that same motto at Doman International. So before we would ever consider reducing a medication, a few things have to take place. First of all, a child needs to have started the Doman Method for a period of time and started to show improvements, to show they are ready now for the process of reducing medication. The second thing is they need to be followed by a doctor, which is why we do a medical examination for every family when they come for an appointment, because we want a doctor to know that child, track that child's progress, and if necessary, guide that family with weaning off medications. But we do it in a very careful, conservative way, because the last thing we want to do is create side effects of withdrawal symptoms, right? When you're reducing medications. But again, we've been doing this for decades. Our staff and medical team have been doing it for decades. They have more experience in weeding medications for children with special needs than I think anyone else in the world. And so we do it in a very careful way and always under the supervision of a doctor. Always. Great question. Another good question. How fast can you see results in a severely autistic child? Okay, so I'll give you the full answer, and then I'll get into some examples. So how fast can you see the results? Honestly, it depends on the child. there are some children, and I'm not exaggerating here, that within a week or two of starting the program, parents are already reporting back results, where they'll tell us the child's talking more, the child has better attention and concentration, the child's hyperactivity is reduced. It happens all the time. But as I said, every child is different. What we generally tell parents when they begin our program is, when you start, focus on doing it for 3 months with consistency. And the reason why we tell this to parents is, as I said earlier in the presentation, the Doman method isn't a magic pill, right? It's not an overnight cure. And so what we found is, if you do the program consistently for 3 months, within 3 months, in the vast, vast majority of cases, you will see obvious progress in the child. And when I say progress, I mean like real practical progress in life. My child is talking more. My child is less hyperactive, less stimming, focusing better, all of those things. So I would say, give it 3 months, commit to that. And then at that point, you usually will have seen the results are really good and you'll want to keep going. One of our mottos is that motivation comes from success. So when you see success with the program, you see your child getting better, you will be motivated to keep going. And so that's why one of the reasons why we want to get results fast is we know that'll keep motivating parents to keep going. Colleen, anything you want to add to that?
I had a thought and it went. I'm sorry, but yeah, exactly that. Just the motivation comes from the. That's the thing that I was thinking of. I thought of this the other day. I mean, my daughter's 20 years old, which is shocking. I don't know how that happened. And we went not too long ago. She was having some little issues. Digestive issues and what have you. We went to see a functional medicine doctor. And one of the things that she said to us was, you didn't get here overnight and it's not going to resolve overnight. And I think that that's an important, when we're parents, especially when our children are young, I think it's very normal to get, you're just surviving every day. And especially when your child has significant challenges, you're surviving every day, and you start to think, well, is this ever going to be different? It's like you've been dug down into a hole and you just don't know how you can get out. But the truth is that once you have the right guidance and the right information, and you can start putting those little steps in place, you are going to get out of that hole. It is going to happen. You have to believe in that and know that our team knows how to get you there too. So you hang in there and we're going to help you so that 3 months later you look around and you say, whoa, things are different. Things are better, and that makes me want to keep going. So yeah, but it's hard.
Well, Colleen, I think we're all out of time. Would you mind just giving your contact information one last time?
Yes, absolutely. So my email address is info, INFO, @domaninternational.org. My WhatsApp number is country code 1-814-232-8668. And if you are anywhere in the English-speaking world, with the exception of like India, Indonesia, Philippines, and some of you might be joining us, which would be great. I will be your primary contact, but we have a wonderful, she's actually a staff coach, the director of our institutes in India, and our representative for that part of the world, Jagjit. So if you contact me, then I will get you in touch with her if that's where you live. So I'll be happy to help.
Great. And we got one last question that was kind of snuck in there, which I will answer. So has anyone with a low IQ achieved graduation from the Doman program? Absolutely. I mean, low IQ is probably one of the most common things that we see with children on our program. IQ tests are greatly flawed, I have to say. I mentioned before that we help parents discover their child's innate intelligence. IQ tests are not good at discovering innate intelligence, I have to say. But absolutely, we have many children who have started our program considered low IQ, learning difficulties, dyslexia, dyscalculia, any kind of learning condition or disorder you could think of. And absolutely, many of them have achieved graduation. And then also the question here, do some of your clients have less seizures? Absolutely. 40% of children that come to Doman International come with seizures. And most of those children come with anticonvulsant medications. Absolutely, we teach families programs. Seva, I'm not sure if you saw the beginning of this presentation, but I mention epilepsy and I talk about our oxygenation program, which can be helpful for preventing seizures, along with other parts of our program. So absolutely, we can reduce seizures, both in terms of frequency, like the number of seizures, and also the intensity, the strength of the seizures. And obviously, our goal is to completely eliminate them. Okay. All right. Colleen, thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Everyone from all around the world, thanks so much for joining and asking your questions. Have a great day.
Yeah. Bye.